All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most fundamental ideas in all of security. It's something that controls everything from the key in your pocket to the password for your email. We're talking about access control. So let's jump right in.
Okay, let me ask you something. What do a plain old door key and a password actually have in common? I mean, when you think about it, they seem totally different, right? One's a piece of metal, the other's just, well, code. But deep down, they're doing the exact same job.
And that's really the heart of it. They both answer one single crucial question. Who gets access to what? Every single security system out there, I don't care if it's a bike lock or a massive corporate network, it's all built to answer that one thing. It's about deciding who gets in the door, and just as important, what they can actually do once they're inside.
So, how does this all work under the hood? Well, pretty much any access control system you can think of is built from three really simple building blocks. You've got the who, the what, and the how.
First up, we have the subject. This is our who. It could be you trying to unlock your front door. It could be an app on your phone asking for your contacts. It could even be a self-driving car pinging a server. Basically, the subject is the one doing the asking, the active party that's trying to get in.
Then you've got the object. This is the what, the thing that needs protecting. It's that locked room, that super secret file, or maybe a whole database full of customer data. The object is the prize, the passive thing the subject is after. And finally, we have the rule. This is the how. This is the bit of logic that connects the who and the what. The rule is what says, yep, this key works in this lock, or nope, this user is absolutely not allowed to delete that file. You could say it's the brains of the whole operation. Okay, so we've got our building blocks: subject, object, rule. But how do we actually put them together to build something secure? Well, security architects rely on a couple of really important guiding philosophies to build what you can think of as a digital fortress.
The first big one, and you could argue it's the most important, is a strategy called defense in depth. The idea is actually pretty simple. You never ever rely on just one single security measure. Why? Because you have to assume that at some point, one of your defenses is going to fail. So you build layers upon layers. The whole point is to make an attacker's job as difficult and as slow as possible.
And the best way to think about this is a medieval castle. It's the perfect analogy. An attacker can't just walk up to the king. First, they've got to get across the moat and over the fences. That's your perimeter. If they somehow manage that, now they're up against the huge outer walls and the guards. Get past them, they're still not done. They have to deal with a bunch of locked doors inside the castle, and even then, the real treasure is probably locked away in a password-protected chest. See, every single layer is another headache for the attacker. Okay, so let's break this down a little more. All these security layers, they basically fall into two big categories, and it's a really important distinction to get.
On one side, you have physical controls. These are things you can literally touch. Then, on the other side, you have logical controls. Sometimes you'll hear them called technical controls. This is all the stuff made of code and data. And here's the key. You need both. You absolutely need both. I mean, what good are the world's best firewall if someone can just walk into your server room and yank the power cord, right? So, physical controls are pretty much what they sound like. We're talking about security guards, fences, big heavy locked doors, those swipe cards you use to get into the office, maybe even things like man-traps or turnstiles, cameras. You get the idea. They're all real-world, tangible barriers.
And then, of course, you have the logical controls on the digital side. This is the toolbox for modern cybersecurity. We're talking passwords, firewalls that act like traffic cops for your network, encryption that scrambles all your data, and all those nitty-gritty system configuration settings that tell a system exactly how to behave.
All right, imagine this. We've made it past all the physical gates. We are now inside the digital fortress. So, now what? How does the system itself figure out which digital doors to open for us? This is where we get into the really cool stuff, the core models of logical access control.
So once the system knows who you are, it still needs a rulebook to decide what you're allowed to see and do. And that rulebook usually follows one of three major patterns, or models. Okay, let's break these three down. First, you've got discretionary access control, or DAC. Here, the person who owns the thing is in charge. It's just like giving a copy of your house key to a friend. It's super flexible, but it's also kind of risky. If the owner makes a mistake, sensitive data can leak. Next up is mandatory access control, or MAC. This is the complete opposite. The system is in charge, not the user.
It works with security labels, kind of like the military's confidential or top secret classifications. It's way more secure because a user can't just accidentally share a top secret file. But the downside is that it's super rigid. And finally, we have the most common one you'll see today, role-based access control, or RBAC. Here, the system gives you access based on your job. Are you in HR? You get access to HR files. It's the workhorse of the corporate world because it's just so much easier to manage. When a new person joins, you just assign them a role, and boom, they automatically get all the right permissions.
Phew. Okay, so we've covered a lot here, right? We went from the basic building blocks all the way to these complex logical models. But if there's just one big idea, one master rule that you should take away from all this, it's something called the principle of least privilege.
Yeah, the principle of least privilege. This is pretty much the golden rule of all security. It's simple, really. Don't give the new intern the keys to the kingdom, right? Don't give a simple weather app access to all your personal text messages. The idea is to give every single user and every single program the absolute bare minimum level of access they need to do their job, and not a single drop more. Just following this one idea can slash the risk in any system. It's that powerful.
And that really brings us to the future. I mean, we're moving away from passwords we have to remember and toward things like faces we scan or fingerprints we press. The technology is changing, but that fundamental question, it stays exactly the same. Who gets access to what? The answers, though, they're about to get a whole lot more interesting. So think about it. In a world of AI and biometrics, who or what is actually going to hold the keys? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.